Welcome everyone to ACT International Consulting LLC's Leadership Speaker Series 2025. And this is a wonderful time wherever you are in the world. Magandang umaga, magandang gabi, magandang tanghali, Pilipinas at mga Pilipino kung kahit saan man kayo sa mundo. In this session, I'm honored to have Sir Ed Sihar from Sarangani Province, whom I came to know since 2003 when I was still working in Sarangani Province. And he's gonna be sharing a lot of great insights for us. But first, I'm gonna try to share first our slide in here for me to share to people for who he is as our speaker. First, I'm based in Atlanta, USA, and he is based in Philippines, South Central Philippines, specifically in Malungon, Sarangani Province. So the purpose of this 2025 leadership series is to highlight accomplished leaders driving community development and people empowerment through monthly interviews. This year-long initiative aims to inspire action, sharing best practices, and equipping audiences with practical insights to foster collaboration and create meaningful impact. And that I believe Sir Ed Zihar is able to really capture and embrace that kind of mindset. So some of the objectives that I have here is inspiring action, highlighting best practices and also fostering collaboration in whatever level, empowering communities, and of course, celebrating leadership. So the speaker that we have is very dear friend of mine and also considering a mentor and a very strategic person, one of brilliant minds in our home region, and also a very interesting and inspiring leader who later on he will be sharing on how pragmatic and practical guidance for civic engagement can really make an impact, significant impact in our community. So that is the topic that we will be talking about from the life and experience of Sir Ed Sihar. I'll try to stop muna the share screen, Sir Ed, because I wanted you to share who you are and say hi to the people that knows you, to your family. Can you share who NCR is?
Okay, thank you. Good morning, Arjo and Fio Flafos
Mhm.
and Mayong Buntag from Sarangani, from Malungon, Sarangani. It's a beautiful day here. It's sunny and all that, so I hope this interview will be as sunny as the day today. So I am Ed. I'm 75 years old. I'm a regenerative farmer here. We have about 125 acres of upland farm. And my family, my wife Lillian and my three daughters and eight grandchildren, we live here in this communities in Suli. I retired early in 2003 and uprooted my family from the urban jungle of Manila and transferred to this interior town of Malongon in Sarangani to start and grow our own real jungle or forest.
Yeah.
So we have been here for over 20 years. And over those years, we have been working with the community, mostly Blaan, of course, because this is a Blaan community, as well
Mhm.
as the business communities in General Santos City and Sarangani. So in the
Awesome.
farm, we grow coconut, pomelo, cacao, lanzones, and other crops. So the main
Mhm.
reason I retired early is because I think I have had enough of corporate rat race, and I felt that it was time for us to go back to our roots, which is the farm.
Yeah.
So my
Awesome.
last employer was Philips Semiconductors, and at the time I was the director for Asia, responsible for China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Philippines, and Malaysia, and in people management and and organizational effectiveness. So I left
Awesome.
those tasks and become a full-time farmer.
Wow.
So that's
Very
who I
inspiring.
am.
very very interesting and really like diverse na mga experiences, Sir Ed. So, in your professional journey, Sir Ed, can you share more across your experiences in working with private, public, and also for-profit roles? Ano yung mga challenges and opportunities in each sector that you have faced along the way? And then yung lessons learned mo that shape your professional growth and also your personal growth, because when I first came to know you, I came to know you as a consultant, on a consultant level. I did not really know you much about your other corporate jobs, your assignment to different countries, really. And when I got to know you in 2023, I you were the first one who was I was so I so admired, because while you were delivering your talks, you are doing it in a PowerPoint presentation for every one of us to see, which is at that time is kind of like, wow, this person is brilliant, while we are doing brainstorming, he's already processing it, and then boom, we see the result. So can you share to us more a little bit about your professional journey and whatever insights that you might be able to share for that one?
Thank you. I'll be glad to do that. Uh, I started working in banana plantations.
Mm-hmm.
You have not seen one maybe, but it's 1,000 hectares and thousands of employees and workers, and most of these are semi-literate. Rural
Mm-hmm.
farmers and rural folks being hired by these big corporations to work in the farm. So it was a difficult job because you have to deal with people who have very very limited understanding of how things work in a company. So
Mm-hmm.
that's where I learned the skills about dealing with different kinds of people, especially people who cannot, who rather who have not experienced or gone to school and understand the way the corporate environment works.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a banana plantation in Davao, and
Okay.
we had rebels for workers and rebels, in PNU, People's Army. They come visiting us at night. We fear the NPAs very, very much, but in person, many of them are just ordinary folks who
Mm-hmm.
are trying to earn a living for their family. No? But it's the ideological gap between us and them that makes things difficult for them to work with our government institutions and our government. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
From there, I started looking for jobs in the city. So we landed in Cebu City. I was hired by Union Carbide, the big company, American company. And I was the human resource manager in its battery plant in Cebu,
Mm-hmm.
in Mandaluyong, Metro Manila, as well as their agrochemical plants in Namayan, also in Metro Manila. So this is the first time I really work in an urban environment. I really work in a multinational environment. And initially, it was very hard. It was very difficult because you have to adjust. But
Yeah.
again, I think what helped me was that I was uh, committed to learn new things. I was committed to sacrifice to make sure that I improve myself and my family. So I think it was a success because when I decided to transfer to a new company, the president called me that I do not want you to transfer. I want to offer you a new job. But of course, I have already made my commitment to the new company and I had to leave. And this
Mm-hmm.
new company was Gillette. This is a
Oh.
very, very famous American company making so many things from razor to writing instruments. And you know that you're in the
Uh-huh.
US.
Uh-huh.
It's now owned, of course, by Procter and Gamble.
Mm.
So I used to work to the US to visit the plant in the US. No, now
Mm.
there it was my introduction to an American way of doing things, which is very difficult, but different, by the way, from the other companies are doing, like in Europe. Things
Uh-huh.
are different. So that's where I honed my skills in the manufacturing environment. And first time I handled unionized employees, and
Mm-hmm.
the labor union in the Philippines, they are quite, it's not, they're quite militant, and the relationship with management is really adversarial. So with
Mm-hmm.
the help of my colleagues, we were able to develop a cooperative, if not friendly, at least cooperative relationship with the union. And we never had any labor problem in that plant for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And
Um,
in the drive for betterment and improvement, I joined my last company, which was Philips Semiconductors, a high-tech
is that also an American
company,
company?
European.
Ah,
I'm
European. So
sorry,
now you shifted from American
European.
to European.
So
Okay.
American to European,
Okay.
a little different, different,
Uh-huh.
different environment. The European companies are a little more, how do I have this, consultative. The Americans are more directive. So I like the environment because management, and of course, eventually, I was hired as a vice president actually. So I was in management. So, but that's where I learned how the European management work. They are more consultative. They are more friendly with the unions, unlike in the U.S. The Philippines is like the U.S. Or the Philippines mimic the U.S. So even in labor union relations, ganun din, di ba? Magkaaway.
Mm-hmm.
But in Europe, we always keep on saying that the labor union is a partner in our business. It is not an
Tolerant.
enemy. It is
Tolerance level.
not.
So mas
So,
mataas yung tolerance level.
yes. So we were able to work with the labor union, and that's where I learned again to work in a new environment, European environment, international environment. I had to deal, of course, with 5 countries and, of course, different people. We have plans, and I go visit these places at least once a month to find out how things are happening, resolve problem. And our regional headquarters was in Hong Kong, so I hold office there, but not every day because I decided to stay in the Philippines because my children were already in college. I didn't want them to go there and start start education under a British system.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wow.
these 4 companies that I work with gave me the experience of learning how to manage and relate with different kinds of people, different kinds of environment. And all of this became helpful when I decided to become a farmer and working with the community because now I know how to adjust. Whether these are the people we work in the capital, the people my consult my clients before. I had several clients in Sarangani. We had a mining company, we have a power company, actually 2 power companies. We have, of course, the agricultural company of Alsons, all these, the people we are working with. So it allowed me, my experience allowed me to adjust to the different environments, different level of people, different experience, different professions. It also helped me a lot dealing with our neighbor farmers in Nagpan.
Mm-hmm. Hello, Sir Ed. Are you there? Yeah.
And useful member of the Blaan community, I have to
Yeah.
become a Blaan.
Yeah. So, Sir Ed,
So
uh, it your professional journey is not kind of like shooting straight forward. For younger for professionals right now, especially the younger generations, I hope they can really like learn the progression of your career and the strategic choices that you also have to make for each of those opportunities that were presented to you at such particular period of time. But I think you also took a lot of courage to not be afraid to be engaged, especially with international companies, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And there's something I would like to share with the young people.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these days, when young people look for a job, to them the most important thing is compensation.
Mm-hmm.
I need to have big salary. I need to have all the benefits and all that. But you see, in employment, compensation is just one of the, shall we say, but the most important things actually are opportunity to grow,
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to learn, an
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to expand your horizon. As long as you get a job that pays reasonable, salaries or and compensation, it's good to start with that. Don't ambition for immediate, large, big salaries and benefits, uh, because you are new and the opportunity to grow is much more important than your current salaries and benefits.
Wow. Very insightful, Sir Ed. I hope that whoever is able to watch this and listen to you will be able to learn from that experience. So from that corporate world of yours, and then all of the countries that you have gone to and your family is getting exposed to, let's transition to your civic engagement after retirement, your advocacies, and of course, speaking about their impact, the areas that you're most passionate about, which is farming. I can still remember the time when I first came to visit your house on top of a hill, and you can see almost everything because it's Kogon. It was barren
Yes,
somehow. It was
it's
Cogonal
Pogon, yes.
area, and then you set your vision for this Cogonal area to become more productive and revive and be more accessible for others to also like learn something. And I saw during the 2019 visit that I have. So from 2006 that I left Sarangani to 2019 that I came to visit, it was totally different. I almost got lost because I could not find your house because of
Mhm.
all of the trees that I'm seeing. And then I was like, okay, this is the only house that I know that sits on top of the hill. So how is life after retirement? And why Sarangani? Are you originally from Sarangani? Why the heart to go back, and why choose Sarangani, and why choose Nagban, Malungon in all other areas? Why?
Uh, the story is, the short of the story is this.
Uh-huh.
When my wife Lillian and I decided to go back to rural community, farming community,
Mm-hmm.
we were looking for a property. Uh, hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay,
I'm
okay.
here.
We're
Yeah.
looking for a property that would meet four basic requirements.
Uh-huh.
Number one, it has to be something that we can start with, meaning a blank page.
Uh-huh.
Number two, it has to be upland because we
Uh-huh.
keep on saying a lowland property does not have character, but an upland property has variety and character.
Uh-huh.
Number three, that it is not too far from civilization. That
Mm-hmm.
you can go to the city to buy your things or to a hospital if you need medical care quite conveniently. And number four, our children are still our youngest was still going to school then. We thought that maybe it is important that we have access to a good school. So those were the four criteria that we used, and we went all over. South Cotabato, Davao, and North Cotabato looking for a property that meets those requirements. And we finally settled on Nagpan, Malungon, Sarangani because we feel that it was the best place that will help us achieve what we wanted to achieve. So if you notice, it was all Kogon, it was all
Right.
brush. Uh, even the vice governor then, Ipi Constantino told us, why do you want to live in such a desolate and arid and useless place? So as I mentioned to you that we wanted to build our own forest after
Mm,
leaving the urban jungle that we have been living for the last 30 years. So that's the reason why we settled here. Now, again, why in Sitio Rancho? Because at the time, this was a small Blaan community, and we felt that living with the Blaans here uh, would help us adjust faster and better with the larger community in Malungon. So uh, our neighbors then were all Blaans. My first friends in Malungon are all Blaans, and up to now, of course, I still think that we have integrated ourselves with the Blaan community satisfactorily. So
is
that
the view of Mount Matutom as I'm sharing in this screenshot right now also like a factor because you have a very very nice view of the Mount Matutom
very nice.
from that vantage point too. So so yeah. And then I'm showing this photo of you so happily looking down below, which has
Yes,
the vegetation has also like changed a lot.
yes,
So I can still remember in 2023 of your vision on transforming this part of the land and the area
yes.
that where you are. So were you able to achieve your goal for those X number of years? And can you share how it transitioned to now having this how now having the Rio Vista Farm and Forest learning site.
Well, we felt that when we transferred here, it's not only enough that we meet our own personal goals, and that is living in a rural area and making a living out of the farm and making a forest out of the farm. You know, we wanted to make sure that we are able to contribute to the community.
Mhm.
So that's why we engage in several activities. Foremost among these, in Malungon, in Sitio Rancho, we started to educate our Blaan neighbors about moving from the usual corn farming to more permanent and more healthy farming practices. So we encourage them to plant coconut, we encourage them to plant fruits, we encourage them to plant bananas. So we're happy to note that as of now, most of those who were used to be corn farmers are now excuse me
Uh-huh.
are now harvesting the benefits of their labor. Excuse me.
No problem.
With their bananas, with their coconut, and other permanent crops.
Mhm.
Now, we started to reforest part of our area and educate people about the need for reforestation, to reforest part of their property because our land neighbors have, a lot of farm areas. But all of these are either planted to corn,
Mm.
excuse me, or are left after the soil has become degraded and arid and rocky. So we said we should develop the property to have your property, part of your property, to
Mhm.
have a small forest. The reason for that is
Mhm.
forest makes the place Well, looks me beautiful, helps the microclimate, makes the place cooler, and it provides birds and animals, especially birds which are helpful to your farm, homes.
Mhm.
And when it rains, the forest conserve the water, and this moisture, flows down to your farm, and that helps your farm, especially during months or weeks where there is no rain.
So how long
So
is the
again, I'm happy to
irrigation?
note that now in many of the farms, our neighboring farms, we have small forests now.
Oh.
And in some of these forests, they have planted coffee, they have planted cacao,
Mhm.
and they are also again harvesting.
Mhm.
Malungon is now the biggest, or one of, if not the biggest, producer of coconut. And
Oh.
our place in Sichurancho is all over. You can see coconut all over the place these days. So
Mm.
those are the things that we did in order to help change the mindset of our farmers from marginal farming to permanent and more environment-friendly farming. So pati yung gamit ng mga toxic agrochemicals na bawasan na yan because now they are planting more permanent crops which do not need these agrochemicals.
Yes,
So yun.
organic. I'm seeing, Sir said. So as you were talking, I was trying to share some of the photos, the pomelo, the coconuts, the forest, the mini forest. How long did it took for this from Pugon to forest? How many years was it really?
Sayang, I have not sent you pictures of how the farm looks like when we started. Well,
Uh-huh.
we did not plant trees. We allowed nature to reforest the
Mm-hmm.
areas, the steep hillsides.
Uh-huh.
So it took at least 6 years
Uh-huh.
for the vegetations to grow again. But to establish a forest, it took us 10 to 12 years. That means that we allowed the place to grow, we allowed nature to grow uh, from the seeds on the ground, the dormant seeds from the ground. And once they have grown and covered the arid ground, they grow very, very fast. So
Oh.
you can see in the picture, some of these trees have been there for 10, 15 years because we are now here for 21 years in Malungon.
Yeah.
So these
I'm here
trees
in the
are as
USA
old
for 18 years now. So I've
Malungon.
left Sarangani for 18 years now. It doesn't seem that
Tagal na,
fast.
di ba?
Yeah, tagal
So,
na.
ngayon, gubat na dito. When you come home one of these days with your James Bond, when you come home one of these days, I will show you the forest that used to be bold hills and bold mountains. So
And
the
this,
pomelos that
mhm.
you have in the photo is in our pomelo orchard.
I tasted them in
This is
2019,
organic.
remember? It's organic and you have surprised me. I thought it's just a few, and then you were bunching up sacks, and I was able to give some to GovMigs of my family. And this is really the best, the best. They're very sweet. Pomel. And Sir Ed, you are also advocating the regeneration and then revitalization of indigenous cultivars, indigenous varieties. Like this colorful corn right here, I have not really seen them for a very long time, especially if they are malagkit or the sticky ones, the glutinous
Yes.
ones.
One of the things that I've been campaigning with our Blaan friends and neighbors is that, you know, there is nothing better than our indigenous crops in terms of taste, in terms of flavor, and in terms of adapting to uh, to drought because these are drought resistant products or crops
Mm-hmm.
which your ancestors have been doing for hundreds of years. So
Yeah.
these are the products these are the crops which are fully adjusted to our environment here in Malungon. And these crops don't need a lot of fertilizers. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I said, let's resume planting these crops. So
Mm-hmm.
now we're planting indigenous bananas. In my
Mm-hmm.
farm, we have about 9 or 10 indigenous bananas, different bananas. We're planting adlai,
Adlay.
the alternative to rice. My
Mm-hmm.
adlai is about to be harvested next week. We are, of course, planting the corn. This corn that you have, this corn varieties that you have seen. I got first the seeds from Malapatan. In Malapatan, Upper Lasang.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
this is
Great.
a Blaan community there, and I
Mm-hmm.
have friends there among the Blaans, especially the elders who make this romblon mat.
Yeah, the Upper Lasang. That's our School of Living Tradition
Yes, yes,
project for
yes,
mat weaving, and we have, of course, our Blaan Gamaba right there as a result of our School of Living Tradition project that was way
yes.
back in 2005.
So that's where the initial corn seeds came from. Now I have distributed this just yesterday. I have sent some about 3 kilos of this to our friends in the University of Southern Mindanao in Kidapawan, so
Mhm.
that they can also distribute and let this be cultivated among the farmers. I've
Mm.
sent some of this to Davao, to Zamboanga even, to Zambales. So people learn to, go back slowly to our
Mhm.
traditional crops.
That is fantastic, sir. And
So,
I can see lanzones as well.
yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
we have longkong lanzones. All of these are organic, by the way. So we
mm.
have longkong lanzones in the farm. So while the other farms sell lanzones at 80 to 100, we sell them at 40 pesos per kilo. The reason being we don't have so much input cost because we're organic. We allowed Mother Nature, the sun, the wind, and the water to nurture our plants.
Plus, you got game chickens. Look at
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So every visitor who comes here, they want chicken tinola. So we always have a chicken roaming around in our farm. Aside from they are tasty tinola, they are also our pest control because they eat all the worms that they can find in the farm. So,
I
so we have
remember
many
you
of them.
sharing. I remember you sharing photos of the last visit of Coach Remelian at your family farm, and
Yes,
that was, now he's gone. That was so meaningful when he brought also his family and just really have a community gathering and community celebration. And he is also like a farmer himself and his focus, and this kinds of activities really reminds me of I'm BS agriculture graduate. I grew up in the farm. I'm a daughter of farmers. So this kind of life I really like missed, and I hope that my children would have actually an opportunity. So your apo, your grandkids, your kids are so much involved in the farm, and
yes,
then their
yes,
upbringing is so much balanced because they got the city, but also they got the farm life. They're so somehow community grounded. And then speaking of community grounding, Sir Ed, you recently have a project which is like a chapel.
yes.
Is that inside the property? And then there was like even a baptism. Can you share why it is important part of your advocacy and the retirement, and how you were able to engage? I know you have like some donors of the supplies, labor, and everything. How you were able to engage the community to make it happen?
Well, my family and I, we said that, well, we have done our share in terms of helping the community improve their economic lives, the way they plant things, their agriculture, and maybe we should also do something about the spiritual upliftment of our community.
Mm-hmm.
So we asked some friends from the US, from Canada, and of course the Philippines. if they will support a project that will put up a chapel for good for 50 people in our property. We donated, of course, 500 square meters because the church will not allow it unless you donate that. So we donated 500 square meters, and we solicited about 400,000 pesos to build the chapel because in our place there are about 50 or 60 Catholics. There are other churches here, of course, but here we are talking about the Catholics because the nearest church in the poblacion is about 6 kilometers, and because of that, the farmers, these are mixed by the way, Blaan, Tagakaulos, and some Bisayans, seldom go to church because of the distance. So we felt that by having a chapel here and a Sunday service, that will help them go back to their roots, to their God, to their religion. And that's what we did.
Mhm.
So we have put up the chapel. We have now a Sunday service. And
Awesome.
last day, we put this chapel up in October last year. And now it's almost completed. So we had already baptism here, about 30 children and young people. And in February or March, we'll have a mass wedding for couples who have been living together without the benefit of marriage for the last many years. And again, another baptism ceremonies, mass baptism also together with the mass wedding. So we're happy because we see people going back to church again, spending time together, praying to God. And I think that's our last project as of now.
Mhm.
We'll try to improve this place. I mean this chapel, so
Mhm.
that it becomes, shall we say, the model chapel in Malungon. In fact, it is
Mhm.
now a model chapel in Malungon, and we're
Yes,
happy
sir.
that the people, the Catholics here, Baan, Tagakaulos, and Visayans are working together to make this happen.
Shout out sa lahat-lahat po ng mga volunteers and donors, whoever you are,
Yes,
who made that happen. Maraming maraming salamat for your kindness and your generosity. And of course, yung communities that were directly involved and engaged in having the resources and labor to put into this. So, Sir Ed, is really like very holistic. You know, there's the spiritual aspect, there's the agricultural aspect, then you also
yes.
talked about the economic aspects. In all of this, can you share yung mga challenges that you have faced along the way for all of those years, and how were you able to really like say stakeholder engagement, make it happen? How was that stakeholder engagement possible at your community? You know, despite the challenges, how were you able to navigate through yung community engagement naman? Hello, Sir Ed?
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, before I go to that, I got to the and train ako
Nawawala kayo, Sir Ed.
of, of uh, so I'm happy to note that this micro entrepreneur.
Micro entrepreneurship. Hello.
Okay,
So, Sir Ed, can you go back again sa
okay. What
challenges
are the
because
challenges?
challenges.
Naputol, no? Okay.
Naputol.
What are the challenges in community engagement?
Mhm.
Well, in our case, the first thing is that we were considered outsiders here.
Mhm.
So we need to integrate ourselves to the community first before we can truly help. And
Mm-hmm.
you know what we did that? How we did that? Well, we offered help to farmers in terms of tawag nito, in terms of technical advice, in terms of material inputs, in terms of even loans to the farmers, so that we get they get to interface with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that helped because, and then the other thing is, the farmers normally will not listen to you until they see what
Uh-huh.
you are preaching in actual. So
Uh-huh.
that's why we decided to put up, I did not mention this earlier, but put up a learning site for agriculture or at our
Mm-hmm.
expense, so that they will see that what we do or what we preach could really be done and it would benefit their farms.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then we talk about reforestation, and we did the reforestation so that they will see how it will benefit. We
Mm-hmm.
planted coconut and pomelo so that they will see that yes, there is an alternative to corn. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
first how do you call this challenges. You are new in a place, and therefore believing you is difficult at the beginning. You have to prove to them your sincerity, your commitment, and that what you are preaching could be done. That's the first challenge.
Yes, awesome.
Credibility.
Credibility. So how you were able
The
to
second challenge is,
uh, yeah, okay po.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, yung second challenge niyo po.
how we were able to overcome this credibility challenge. Well, we
Mm-hmm.
show them that what we say is doable. We show them that what we say is good for them. Only
Mm-hmm.
then they decide to say, okay, let's believe and let's try to do what he's trying to teach us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
The second challenge is, in any project, you need to have funds.
Uh-huh.
Of course, we shelled out funds from our own pockets, but mostly we partnered with organizations,
Okay.
government and private organizations, because you can access resources from these organizations in order to help the farmers and the community. So, partnership.
Mm-hmm.
The second challenge is, in our experience, is teaching people new ways
Uh-huh.
when they have been doing these things all their lives. So
Mm-hmm.
they're resistant to change.
Yes.
Uh, like for example, you come from here, and many of our farmers, both Blaan, Tagakulo, and Kasayan farmers, have been doing their practices for years. And if
Yes.
you tell them that this is better than what you are doing, the resistance is very, very strong. Again, how
Yes.
did we overcome this? As I mentioned earlier, to overcome credibility, we simply show them that it could be done and it is better for them.
Yes.
So now there are people in the community. Another challenge is who will even uh, it's not fight, but who will resist your campaign to help the other people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, for whatever reason, for political or personal reason. So they will even tell you, or they will even tell other things or these things for their selfish and personal reasons.
Uh-huh.
What did we do? We
Uh-huh.
simply didn't listen to them.
Yeah.
They can say whatever they want. But as far as we were concerned, we showed to the people our commitment and our sincerity, and eventually
You're there, Sir Ed?
yeah,
Yes.
basically those things.
Yeah. So,
Uh,
but in all of this, I think
yes,
you have engaged the people from the very start. As you said, like, in the planning, in initiating and all of this, you're you have shown that stakeholder engagement is really very important when you engage people, not just on the latter part, but from the very start, that they have a team buy-in,
yes,
that they understand, that they embrace it themselves, and they are willing themselves to do it for themselves, right?
yes. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's 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 you're correct, very correct.
Mm-hmm.
It was fun when you were
Mm-hmm.
new.
Hello, Sir Ed.
Place
Yan, napuputol-putol.
get so when you here,
Mm-hmm.
uh, from time to time we hold a party at all.
Oh.
So my children prepare food and all that, and they say birthday of our whatever, anniversary or what. So we can invite people to join us. And
Uh-huh.
of course, alam mo naman dito sa farm. Hello?
Yes, I'm here, Sir Ed. So you have
Hello?
engaged. I'm here. Yeah, I
Hi,
can hear
Joe.
you. Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you po. I can. So you said that, the involvement of your family is also very important because of their inspiration to also accept,
So,
yeah. So I'm sharing some of the photos with your
yes.
family members.
Well, si, ah, dito pa si,
Yeah, no.
so, I, dito?
Uh-huh.
Hello?
Hello, Sir Ed. I can hear you.
Nawawala?
No, okay
Can
lang
you
po.
hear
You,
me?
you can, yeah, opo. Naririnig kita.
Hear me?
Aha, aha. Opo.
Okay.
Just, just continue, Sir Ed.
So,
I'm gonna.
that's how we did it, and you're correct.
So, Sir Ed, we're
Meron
back.
kang,
Naputol,
okay,
naputol.
I'm back.
So, you're good. You're good. You can resume.
Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
You wanted to know how to start community engagement?
Um, yeah,
How
it's
the
you did
approach?
you shared about that one earlier, and then the last point you were mentioned is that your kids are also involved in all
Ah,
of this.
yes,
Your
yes,
family are actively engaged. So I'm sharing a photo right here. I'm sharing a photo right here. Hold on. I don't know if you're able to remember this photo of us during my last visit at your home. And then there
yes,
is there is Yado, and I believe I
yes,
introduced Yado
yes.
Henry to you, and then he also considers you as a mentor. So thank you so much for doing that. And I know that your heart is for the younger generations, especially to be empowered to do the best that they could. And of course, your lovely wife.
Thank you.
Can you honor her with all of these things that you've done over the years? How important is her role in your life, in your advocacy, in the decision making?
Yes, of course. First of all, she holds the purse, so I cannot move without her blessings.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, she raised our children. She helped me raise our children and adjust to become adjusted from living in a city to a farm like this. And she is the center of the family so far as our life here in the community. And she knows everybody. Everybody knows her in the
Mm-hmm.
community as well. So she's involved in everything that we do.
in every kudos, as in talagang kudos for the role, the support that you are getting from everyone and every member of your family po. She's so beautiful. And then living at that particular point in time, seeing you all in 2023 when your house is still being built and on top of the hill and everything. It's a lot of I bet an adjustment, but through it all you have a lifetime partner that have supported you over the years, and I'm blessed to be able to spend some time with you both in 2019. And I bet you were really surprised. I'm just so happy that that time when we dropped by, you were both at home. So
Yeah.
maraming salamat po. And as you can see, Sir Ed, this was our last photo. And this was at the Brigada TV station,
Yes.
right after I was able to do an interview that was also ushered in by Yado, interview
Hmm.
at facilitated by Miss Jen Solis as well for Brigada. And then the cultural advocacy, and thank you so much, Sir Ed, really for being an inspiration. So kahit na wala ako sa Pilipinas, but everything that, things that I'm doing now, it's just on a different scale, maybe international
Yes, correct.
context, but what I'm doing and I'm trying to still do, even though hindi na Philippine government context, is what we've been trying to also engage, like when we were in Sarangani. So we don't lose our hope, we don't lose our voice wherever we are. There is that common bond that stands out because of our common belief of empowerment, common belief that self-determination, that you can do whatever you wanted to do without sacrificing your identity, especially cultural identity, and uplifting. You have uplifted the lives of so many Blaan Indigenous Peoples Group and Taga-Kaulo and so many other people in your community. And I felt that I am one of those. So I'm so honored to really know you in my life, and then I'm so honored to share part of this story through this medium. We're gonna share it on YouTube, in my Facebook page, and advocate for the life, part of the life. This is just a glimpse of the life that you have lived, and for so many people whom they call you as mentor, I join them in celebrating you as a father, as a community leader, as a change maker, as a visionary, as someone that we look up into. So with that, Sir Fred, Sir Ed, bong salamat. I'm already having Sir Fred Basino for my next session. I know you are very good friends, but these are people that my goal this year is to really have this medium to thank people have impacted my life, and honoring also our coach, Sir Ray Milian, remembering him because January is also like his birth month, and
Yes.
it's a great way to celebrate people who are in leadership, and may your legacy be lived by your children, your apo, how much you have shared to them. And thanks for being present in social media. I'm thankful that you come back to Facebook. At least I'm able to see what are you thinking? Or what are your insights? I know there are lots of common things that we also think about for our community, but that will be in another topic, in another discussion, in another scope. But we are just so blessed that today you are present virtually to share your insights about this important topic of pragmatic and practical applications, especially in our community engagement, development, and how each one of us can be very playing an important role. So last message and closing message from you, Sir Ed. Yours.
Okay, well, first of all, I'm very happy for you, your success as of now, and I'm sure you will scale more heights in the future. And yes, we are also happy. I am also happy to be of help to the community. We will continue that. And I hope one of these days you will come and visit us and see a different place and a different community from what you have seen in the last time that you were here. And thank you
Definitely.
for this opportunity to share whatever little experience we have in helping out our community in a small piece of this world. Thank you and good luck to you. More luck to you.
Yeah. So for everyone, Rio Vista is the name of the farm in Malungon. And you can just ask anyone in Malungon, they will be able to direct you if you wanted to experience life because you offer camps, overnight camps too, Sir Ed, right? You offer like,
Not at the moment because of after the COVID-19
uh-huh,
we pause our activities, but we are on the process of reinvigorating it again.
okay. But people can visit the farm
Oh
and
yes,
learn
anytime, yes.
something and things like that. So if you
I will
wanted to,
expect visitors in the next few weeks. In fact, about maybe in the next 2 months, maybe about 100 to 150 people coming here from time to time.
okay. That is fantastic, Sir Ed. I'll definitely spend a night or two with my family when we will be in Malungon and praying for that time to come and maybe by that time hopefully Harvard graduate na si Arjo.
Yes, yes, yes.
I could
I
not make it.
I follow your how do you call this education
Journey.
journey. So I get to see all your activities, and I'm really happy for you. Even
Yeah.
Ray, when the last time Ray Milian was here, he was very happy that we talk about you and about the Arjo that we know. So his time has come, so he's not with us anymore. But meantime, let's enjoy life. Let's do
Yes.
whatever we can for the community.
Yes, well, the Arjo, is still the Kikay Arjo that, living life, documenting life, but also giving always to the community. So even if I'm
Yes.
here in the USA, I try to give back either to the Philippines or through our local community here in Georgia. And this morning, yet today, I was able to be part of the representation for the Philippines on behalf of our Philippine Honorary Consul General as we celebrate the Martin Luther King Jr.
Yeah, yeah.
Beloved Community Commemorative
Uh,
Service, and to me, it's this interview is part of that because although it's in a different country, but the passion and the power that we are trying to advance is very very similar to what the late Dr. Martin Luther King is trying to advocate. So today is very timely. January 20 here in the USA, which already January 21 there in the Philippines. Please know, Sir Hart, that as please know that by heart, I have your advocacy in me too. And please know that I also love your family, Sir Ed. And we hope to see each other again, alive and kicking and doing this farm. And hopefully at that time, I'll be able to bring my family so that we could
yes.
enjoy your farm. So maraming maraming salamat po ulit.
Don't
And
mention it. Don't
I
mention it. Welcome.
my you are the first international consultant that I came to know in my life, and look at what I'm doing now. I'm
Yes.
doing my ACT International Consulting. It's Action, Courage, and Teamwork, which also
Yes.
stands for Arjo Carino Turner because
Yes.
that's more my kind of like public name. But please know the inspiration. I just don't do things out of the spur of the moment, but these are all inspired by people that you met, and you are one of them. So maraming maraming salamat po. And this ends the interview with Sir Ed Sihar for Leadership Speaker Series 2025 with ACT International Consulting. And again, this is Josephine. Just call me Arjo Carino Turner. And signing off. And maraming salamat, Sir Ed.